Ladies and gentlemen, the You, Me, and BTC podcast.
Oh goodness, that's right, that's who we are, that's what we are, that's how we roll. For now anyway, I mean, we told you last week, we're thinking about a new show, so we'll see how that turns out. We still don't really know what the heck our plans are, so...
We just continue to identify ourselves as You, Me, and BTC. See, we're allowed to identify ourselves as really whatever we want. It's not up to disgusting, judgmental bastards out there.
Yeah, I mean...
It's whatever we choose.
Yeah, we're Bitcoiners, but if we want to use the fiat bathroom, we can do that. I mean, it's okay, so...
If I want to pay to have to piss in some government building, I'm allowed to.
There you go.
All you judgmental cunts can fuck off.
All right. Starting out strong.
So I just mean that the judgmental people. All the other ones, you're cool.
I am Daniel Brown, and my radical co-host here is...
Timothy Baker. I do like radical.
You
not
don't?
Really, I hate that word.
Well,
I was like, it's not used enough, but then I was like, yeah, it's used a lot in like marketing towards 12-year-olds.
Radical Radio.
Radical's still something out there.
That's our next show, Radical Radio. No, it's not. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, today's topic is Craig Wright, yet again. Goodness gracious, this guy. I don't know. It's quite the story. Supposedly, he proved that he was Satoshi, but only to some people. I don't know. So let's see. We have an old episode. If you want to catch up on the real early happenings here, we have an old episode called Right's Wrong, PGP Key or GTFO. That was like 6 months ago, and we covered the early story there. But just a few weeks ago, he claimed that he was going to prove this. So Tim and I set up a bet on the show. That was episode 120, Big Macs and Bitcoin, if you're interested. And
no one is.
Oh, they're all interested, Tim.
Just actually a bitch about the beginning of the show.
You know what?
Which we realized was pretty bad.
You're actually right, Tim. I mean, no one would be interested because they all already heard it. I mean, they've been listening to our show forever, so they listen to it like moments after it's released. So you're right. No one's interested. Forget what I said. But anyway, yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to Tim, and we're going to get right into it. John is not with us today. He, he passed away or something. So, all right, what is it, Tim?
What do you mean, what is it? What that I'm going to share?
Yeah, like what's going on here? Like what the hell did Craig Wright do?
Well, Craig Wright was he's some Australian dude, really. But, which is what my, that'll come up later.
What, anyway, that he's Australian?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a problem with that.
You racist animal?
No, it's not racist.
First
it's
Africa,
like,
now it's Australia.
Okay, but Australia
next thing you know, you're going to be beating down white Americans.
Maybe. See, but the difference there is Australia was like founded by criminals, pretty much. I mean, it was just a prison. I don't know how much that's true, but we're going to go with it for this anyway.
Okay, actually, now I really want to know this story, but for the sake of those darned YouTubers who can't stand our openings, we're going to get to the story, and then you can tell me about the criminals in Australia.
Okay, good. Anyway, Craig Wright is, as I said before, some Australian dude. I don't know exactly what he does in Australia. He does talk about coding and writing papers and all kinds of stuff. Did you catch what he does at all?
I mean, I don't know, some kind of computer scientist. Yeah, he does do coding and cryptography and stuff. So he does fit the bill a little bit, yeah.
So, as is assumed with all of the Bitcoiners, he's probably an avid user of the Silk Road and buys sex slaves. Anyway.
They don't sell sex slaves on the Silk Road. The Silk Road doesn't even exist anymore.
I know, but that's what you think. There's actually a new one.
I mean, that's just what I've heard. I wouldn't know, but that's what I've heard.
Daniel just like skulks around like an empty website. Hey, guys, can I buy some crack? No one got some crack?
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's me.
No, I'd be like, do you guys have tax-free beer? Tax-free what? Oh, tax-free whiskeys.
Wait, do they really have that?
I know some
Not that
websites,
you would know either, but what have you heard?
Well, people still sold, in a lot of different places, even, some legal sites, people try to sell moonshine and just, people just brew it. I mean, pretty much the same way. They'll make, bourbon, rye whiskey.
All right.
rum.
Good to know. But so much for getting to the story, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the joke here. Anyway, as I've said like 7 times already, Craig Wright has come forward to
We're just
the
filibustering.
BBC.
I mean, that's all. We're good at that.
We're just trying to fill up the show. Craig Wright is an Australian, as Daniel said, some kind of computer scientist, and he has come forward now and is claiming to be at least the main person in creating Bitcoin. He alludes to it being more than just him, but not. He doesn't really give any names in at least the short clip that I saw and watched.
That was on BBC, which was supposedly, well, not really supposedly. This part is pretty normal, whatever. BBC and maybe a couple other sites got to meet him for a little conference for him to prove that he was Satoshi. So BBC has several stories on this. So
yeah, and he came forward to BBC and, as Daniel said, a few other sites that he could prove that he was Satoshi by moving Bitcoin from one of, they're saying, an early block.
Right. Well,
what does that mean?
Okay.
That's the quote, by the way.
Right.
It says, Craig Wright's spokesman told the BBC that the Australian would, quote, move a coin from an early block, unquote.
Okay, so as far as I know, he hasn't moved any coin yet. But the reason early blocks are relevant here is because supposedly only Satoshi would have access to the earliest coins, right? I mean, he was obviously one of the first miners, and it took at least a couple days or a couple weeks for other people to get involved. So yeah, the earliest blocks really should be Satoshi's Bitcoins, and they haven't moved yet, a lot of them. So unless the private key has changed hands, which is a pretty big, possibility in itself, but assuming that hasn't happened, then whoever can move the earliest Bitcoins must be Satoshi, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And as far as I know, he hasn't done that yet. What he supposedly did in this press conference was, or not even a press conference, it was just like a little meeting, which is also a little bit sketchy, but supposedly he signed a message with an early Bitcoin address. So that's pretty similar to spending coins if it's legit. I mean, you also, just like you need the private key to spend the coins, you need the private key to sign a message with the early addresses. So, let's get into this video here because it's kind of hilarious. You watched the whole thing, right, Tim? Or most of it?
Yeah, and immediately it's just like, what exactly is he doing?
Yeah.
I've never seen what's a Eurocom computer?
Eurocom. I do not know.
That's what's on the back of his laptop.
I guess it's something from Europe. I don't know. But there's so many sketchy things about this video. And sure, maybe that's one of them. And they mention that in the article here, that he used his own computer to supposedly make this proof. And everyone else in the room was non-technical. They were journalists and reporters and stuff.
And the dude sitting right next to him looks just confused the entire time.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty true, but I mean that's kind of to be expected from a non-technical person sitting in front of all this cryptography.
Yeah, but that's the BBC's fault for not putting someone in there who actually knew what was going on.
Yeah, I'll give you that. But I mean, another aspect is just journalism in general. You're supposed to be kind of confused so that you ask all the questions and try to get the answers and stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't blame. That's like the least of my worries.
This wasn't necessarily about questioning him. He already had his thing about saying he was Satoshi. This is about him proving. So it doesn't make any sense to have,
right.
Sure, I have no idea what you just did, but that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. If he says he can prove it, then you're right. They should have someone technical there to explain, is he really proving it? How is he proving it? Are we sure that he's proving it? Yeah, I'll give you that. But another thing that's interesting is he doesn't even, on this video, he doesn't even make the proof on video. He just talks about it. I mean, I've searched a little bit and I haven't seen the video of the proof, and I haven't heard anyone kind of verifying the proof. So I mean, do we even really know? I mean, right?
I mean, they said his proof for it was that he signed a message through the Electrum Bitcoin wallet, and he signed it using the private keys from the early Bitcoin blocks, which are again assumed to belong to Satoshi. And he did do it on his own computer at first, but
well, yeah, you're right.
He did redo it though.
You're right.
It does say he redid it for Andreessen.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but you're right. There is another time he said he got a computer from a nearby shop. They unboxed it right there and installed Electrum right there. So it wasn't his own computer and it wasn't his own software. And then he did the signing for Andreessen, which, I mean, that's not on video either. We don't have the actual messages. So
or he just goes, "Hey, Andreessen, I'll give you half."
Yeah, half of, you mean like half of, whatever he's getting out of this or something?
Yeah, which actually, even as I say that, I'm like, I don't know what all he gets out of this, besides maybe some book deals, but, because like, if he isn't actually Satoshi, then he can't really get that money, so he's not gonna get more money with that.
Okay, well, hang on. So you're saying that he's going to try to make money off of this because, I mean, if he was Satoshi, he wouldn't try to make money off of this because he'd already have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Bitcoin, probably thousands. But you're saying that he's probably not Satoshi, so he is going to try to make money off of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, and in the video, he just comes across as, like, trying too hard to sound like he's not getting publicity.
Oh, like, I know.
I don't care. I don't need to come out. I just did because people are being bothered in my family. I'm like, so what? If people were bothering your family, what were they threatening to release it? I mean, I guess he could have just come out for blackmail, but then why not just say it was for blackmail? No, I'm coming out, and this is the only interview I'm only going to do ever. Did I say ever before? Let me say it again. Ever. I'm never. And you can. And then he goes through this list of all these medals that he's like, you people could.
Yeah, he's like, you could give me a Nobel Peace Prize, you could give me a Turing Prize, but I swear,
you could nominate for all
I will never accept anything.
No, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say anything. He keeps on saying, "I will not accept a cent."
Yeah.
He keeps on pointing at the stupid camera. A cent. I'm like, you're just getting a medal. I mean, maybe you get money too with those things, but
oh yeah, you do.
Why would you not take a cent? Why does it matter? Like, take the money. Who the fuck cares? Like, why are you so obsessed about? I will, because it almost seems like he knows he has to play it like that, so he's gonna go like, yeah, no, I don't want anything from this. I will never be on camera again. I'm like, dude, you're definitely gonna be on camera again. Someone's just gonna follow you around.
Yeah, that's he's like on a TV camera
like
saying I do not want publicity. That is not why I'm doing this. But I'm all dressed up for you in this fancy office here with this high-tech camera. But I swear I don't want publicity.
I'll never do it again. I'm only here to tell everyone for no real reason because it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I definitely wanted to cover, was all the weirdness in this video. And so I'm glad it's coming up. But it's just, I'll admit that whatever our arguments right now are also not conclusive. There's no proof that he's not Satoshi. It's just so, even if he is Satoshi, which I would still bet against, and we need to talk about that, Tim. But even if he was Satoshi, everything is just so weird. Like, if he was, the biggest thing for me, and this is kind of...
he's Australian, right? How
could an Australian be smart? Yeah, that's it.
No, that's not it. It's how could an Australian... Now it worries me, because it's like, how can an Australian build an app or some kind of program that wasn't designed to steal money from actual non-criminals?
Sure, okay, whatever. I
was a little bit too played out, sorry.
But, So the biggest thing for me is just, if he was Satoshi, he could prove it so much better than this. He could be signing any message that anybody wants in public on Reddit and, on bitcointalk.org, on video. If he was Satoshi, he could prove it in a heartbeat.
He would come out to BBC first.
Yeah, he would not have to go to BBC. He could do it on the forums, at 2 o'clock in the morning on his own time. He should not have to go to BBC, contact reporters and say, hey guys, I can prove that I'm Satoshi, which he did do before, and he did do this time. He should not have to do that. He can prove it in a heartbeat if he is Satoshi. And so all this elaborate stuff, what is it for? Especially if he's so certain that he doesn't want publicity, then why is he going to BBC instead of our Bitcoin?
I can see that, just going to BBC first, be like, all right, I'm here, take whatever pictures, because you put on our Bitcoin, then you're just waiting, okay, when are people going to start showing up? So you kind of go to someone else's area so that you're, okay, I'll just get this over with, or at least done, most of it, so I won't have these people camped outside my house.
So you're saying if he really was threatened by the media or just Satoshi hunters, that's a nice word. I like that. We could have called our podcast that.
Satoshi hunters.
But you're saying if he really did feel threatened, then maybe it would make sense to go to BBC just to make it big, a one-time thing. This is it. I'm done. Now everyone knows because it's on BBC, which is more legitimate than Reddit, sure. But is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I'd say it made it more, because he was threatened. You're threatened, but not necessarily in a malicious way. People are going to come kill me. Just and just take pictures every single time I leave. So I'll just go, and this way I won't have people knocking on my door. I can just sit in their office. They'll probably just keep me there and just do whatever the fuck for me. I can get coffee. That's probably what he's doing. He's probably trying to live for 3 days, just getting all kinds of shit. He's like, I'm a coder and nobody respects me. I just want 3 days of getting free shit at BBC. And that's pretty much what's going on here. And I have to commend him for it. It's a decent idea.
Yeah, you should have done it, Tim. Come on, man.
Well, no, because you think about it, the last time, or one of the times they picked some dude who was just Asian. This is how stupid our media is. Wait, his name's what? There's a dude named Satoshi-Nakamoto. Don't you just normally use your name for anything online, especially in anonymous cryptocurrency where most of the people use PGP? It's you fucking retard. I don't. It doesn't make so. Yeah, this dude's just they'll believe pretty much anything I say. I just kind of smacked the computer a little bit in front of this old dude, and he was like, "Yeah, I think that's what he did."
Yeah,
I don't think it's actually that, but I could definitely see it being that.
I agree. You're right. They do believe a lot of things if it's sensational. The first really big Satoshi so-called discovery was Newsweek, right? It was on the cover of Newsweek. They just did it because it was sensational. And so, yeah, sure, that's what they're going for. And if they have a guy who's close enough, who can prove that he was there early, and that he has pretty much proven, or no, he doesn't even really have to prove it. It's just a fact that he has been involved in Bitcoin for a long time. Everyone's agreed on that. So sure, if the media can find someone like this and get them to have a story like this, then yeah, that's plenty sensational, and they would support, agree with, and promote whatever he said. And maybe he's leveraging that. Maybe. Again, we still don't have proof that he's not Satoshi either. But yeah, so you're right, Tim. I want to get into this next point, which kind of brings us back to some basic cryptography, which might be worth explaining. The next heading in this article is that all?
Yeah, this kind of this makes everything even just weirder.
Yeah. Because this is another thing that's been talked about for a long time, is his blog. Because the first time that he came out, 6 months ago, there was this whole issue of I posted about, cryptocurrency on my blog before Bitcoin even happened. And then they checked the archives, and the supposed posts about crypto were added later. after Bitcoin. I mean, they were dated before Bitcoin, but added later. Or not whole posts, but just information about crypto or digital currency or something. So that was a whole thing. But now, more recently, he's posted on his blog. I'll just read actually what it says. He posted information on his blog that said he would show that he was Satoshi, again because of the digital signature linked to those early blocks. Many people jumped on this evidence and soon after revealed that there was no digital signature on it. Instead, it uses a short list of numbers any competent Googler could find. The string of numbers comes from a 2009 Bitcoin transaction carried out by Satoshi. Now, this goes back to that, like, if he was Satoshi, he could prove it in a heartbeat. So why would he go posting blogs with just signatures copied from earlier Satoshi things that have nothing to do with this actual blog, right? I mean, you'd think if he was so sure, if he was trying to prove something so dramatic, you'd think he wouldn't, accidentally copy the wrong signature or something. Or even if he did, he could provide the right one now. Like, this is a joke. Like,
yeah, it's like, oh, I messed up. Let me do it again. No, it's just like, I tried this one too, and now this just makes it look weird.
Right. But
it's like, all right, here's some kind of proof, and then here's like this proof that I put forward as proof, and it's not proof at all. So you're like, is this guy just bad at it, or is he trying to fool people? But you'd think you'd try a little bit harder.
Are you tired of Bitcoin Dice and ready for something different? Try LuckyBit, the original falling coin game, at luckybit. It's the most exciting Bitcoin game on the web. You can bet on 5 different payout lines and win up to 999 times your bet. You can even use their faucet to get some free Bitcoin. Dice is boring. Play different at LuckyBit. Check it out at luckybit. I want to take a second here. I'll try to be brief, but it's always worth giving a brief cryptography lesson about what a signature even is and how that's proof of whatever. And that's also, actually, this blog post is kind of about that. He talks about that kind of stuff. What is a signature, and how do you verify it and sign it, things and whatever. So I'm going to take a minute or two just for anyone that might not know to explain, which maybe we should have done this earlier, but whatever, just to explain what we mean by a signature. A very high-level explanation. I'm not going to get into the details, but basically, with cryptography, any kind of cryptography, even a Bitcoin address is a public key for cryptography. Okay, so when you have cryptography, you have a public key and a private key. The public key you give to everyone else. That's why it's public. So everyone knows, right now, everyone knows what Satoshi's public key is. He used it for years when he was, writing emails and posting on the forums, messages, whatever. He used his public key, and regularly the same one, so that everyone would know who he is. But just having the public key doesn't prove that you're Satoshi, because it's public, right? I could have Tim's public key, his Bitcoin address, and I could say I'm Tim, but that wouldn't mean anything. Just showing you Tim's Bitcoin address, well, that's public. That doesn't prove anything. So the way that you actually make the proof is you sign a message with the private key. So only you have the private key. Only Satoshi has his private key. And they go together. They're not just made up. The public key and the private key go together. But through the magic of cryptography, you cannot get from, if we have the public key, we can never figure out what the private key is. That's like the core basis of all cryptography, is that you can share the public key and no one will ever guess the private key. That's the absolute basis of cryptography. That's what makes it work. But what's also magical and cool about it is that let's say Satoshi writes an email and he signs it with his private key. And again, that's a complicated thing. It's math, and they take the email itself and they take the private key and they do whatever magic to it. And he signs it, and that creates a signature. It's just letters and numbers, whatever. It's a signature, characters, equals, and ampersands, whatever. I don't even know. It depends on the cryptography. But the signature is just a string of letters and numbers. Actually, it's just a number because it's just math. But when you're dealing with numbers this big, you have to use letters and symbols to help represent that number in an organized fashion. But, okay, anyway, I said I would be high level. So anyway, the point is, he signs it with his private key. He posts that signature with the email or the forum post or whatever. And again, it's just the magic of cryptography. If you want to learn about it, you can, but it's pretty complicated, mathematical and technical. But through that magic, everyone that has his private key, that has his public key, can look at that email and can look at that signature and can verify with absolute certainty. I mean, not absolute, because, there's brute forcing and guessing, whatever, or even just transferring private keys. But with mathematical certainty anyway, you can prove that the person who wrote that email is the person who identifies with that public key and who necessarily owns the private key that would have created that signature. I hope that made sense. I went on a little bit longer than I wanted to, but the point is, a signature is just a huge number, and it proves that the person who wrote that email has possession of the private key that is connected to his public key. That's the one-liner right there. Does that make sense, Tim? And yeah, does it make sense, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I have a very, very limited use or knowledge of the PGP stuff, so I don't know too much about signing and how you do that, how you sign a message. I know you showed me once, but
well, I mean,
you don't need to understand the whole thing. It's just that you get the pair of keys at the beginning, and one's public. Everyone can see that. You pass that around to everybody so you can send the messages. One's private. As long as you, for some stupid reason, don't send it to anybody. If you're an idiot, it's not foolproof. I mean, you have to keep it to yourself, but then all I know about it is then you can encrypt your messages, and then anyone who has your public key can decrypt your messages because they have the pair. They have the public to your private. Any message that you sign, I mean, is that the same thing, or is that different whenever you encrypt the message?
It is a little bit different. It is a little bit different. Signing and encrypting. But it could be, you
could use it for the same thing, though.
I mean,
right?
they're really similar, but encrypting is normally what you do with encryption. And this is longer than I wanted to go on this, but it is really important information for anyone that's in Bitcoin, so I'm going to take this time. When you encrypt something, normally you encrypt it for one other person. You encrypt it because you only want to send it to one person. So what you do then, and again, it's magical, mathematical, whatever, but when you're encrypting something, normally you use your own private key and someone else's public key. So if I want to send a message to you, encrypted just for you and me.
Yeah, I said that backwards, sorry.
I would use my private key and your public key. I would combine those to encrypt the message such that, and again, magical, but it would make it so that you're the only one, because I use your public key to encrypt it, but to decrypt it, you need the private key, and you're the only one that has that private key. Now, one more thing I want to say is that this is not the encryption, but the signing, which is for public. It's for, I write a message publicly, and I sign it with a giant number at the end, and that's a little bit different because you don't have to involve anyone else's public or private keys. It's only you show your public key, you sign it with your private key, and the connection can be proven. But one thing I also want to add is that signing is exactly what you do with a Bitcoin transaction. A Bitcoin address is a public key. And when a transaction is just like an email or a forum post. It's just a message that says, I send this person this many Bitcoins, or I send this address this many Bitcoins. Signing is just a message. And the way that you can prove that you want that message is real, that it's from you, is you sign the message, the transaction, with your private key, which only you have. And then that makes it verifiable. So it's the exact same thing. This signing that we want Craig Wright to do is exactly the same as sending a Bitcoin transaction. So, all right. Well, I feel like right now we could say, where does this leave us? And what do you know? That's the next heading in this article. So with all this cryptography stuff in mind, and whatever Craig claims to have done and may or may not have done, where does this leave us, Tim? What you wanna? Well, we got a few more headings here, but what do we got here?
Well, it'd be better for his claim that he was Satoshi if he had just done the first thing and then left it at that.
What do you mean the first thing?
The first proof, the signing the message with the private keys, or no?
Yeah. You're right. You're right. That's what I was saying. Like, he could prove it in a heartbeat. He could just go on Reddit, maybe on like Google Hangouts, so everyone can see him and know that it's him. And he could say, "Hey guys, send me messages that you want me to sign." All right. People send in a message and he signs it. Someone else sends in a message and he signs it. He's like, "There you go. I'm signing message after message. It must be me, right, guys?" Yeah, you're right. That would be, he could do that in a heartbeat and people could be sure.
Yeah, and so we're now kind of stuck where it's like you kind of have made it look like you're Satoshi, but for some reason you won't just prove it.
I know.
It's like, it'd be so easy and it kind of seems like you are, and yeah, but then you're not going to actually go all the way, so we're kind of just like, I don't know what you're doing, man. You're just being real weird. Which could just be, I don't know, maybe he's just a weird dude, or maybe Satoshi's an asshole.
Or an
maybe
idiot. It's like, what do they say about Jesus? He was either a liar, a lunatic, or the Lord.
Yeah, liar, lunatic.
One of the above. Yeah, so yeah, that's the answer. Where does this leave us? In limbo. I mean, like I said at the beginning, as doubtful as it is, we still don't have proof that he's not Satoshi, and we don't have proof that he is Satoshi. I mean, not very legitimate proof. So we're in limbo. That's about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if this was recorded again or if I just said this before, but the man does have a Eurocom laptop, so. Yeah, I just take that how you will.
Okay.
He's off the grid or something.
There's going to be someone on YouTube. It might
be like a real cool laptop. What?
There's going to be someone on YouTube that's like, dude, it's
what
Eurocom.
The fuck? That's the best laptop ever.
Eurocom is the Apple of Europe, so. All right, so how could this be resolved? We already talked about, that's the next heading here, and we already talked about it a lot. He just says with more proof. Oh man, this is another thing that we should have done at the beginning. But the author here, it actually doesn't say, as far as we can tell, we've looked all over and we can't find the author, which is kind of weird. But yeah, so whoever's writing this, which is also weird for BBC, I mean, we cover stories from a lot less reputable places than BBC, and this one has a weird, whatever, quirk. But anyway, the author says with more proof. That's how we can resolve this, and that's what we've been saying. You know, spend some Bitcoins from the early blocks, sign more messages with the early addresses. That's it. And, all right, Tim, here we go. Are there any other candidates that could be Satoshi?
Well, they don't really mention him by name, or no, they don't mention him by name at all in the writing.
Right.
So I don't know if maybe someone after the article was written just threw this in, but they just have that stupid picture of Ross Ulbricht like leaning up against a tree with his hair all fluffed up. And it's like, are there any other candidates? It could be him. And then underneath the pictures, Ross Ulbricht, who ran the Silk Road Underground Marketplace, was named as a potential Satoshi, well, so was some random Asian dude sitting in his house. So why? And they just like picked it. Well, I mean, like if you started Bitcoin, then you definitely go into like a drug thing where you're pretty likely to get caught, right? And you need to make more money, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, obviously there's always the exceptions, but I'm pretty sure almost nobody actually thinks that Ross Ulbricht made Bitcoin.
He's definitely gonna be Satoshi now.
Yeah.
He's just, this dude came out, like Ross put it out, and Ross is about to just break out of prison somehow with Bitcoin strength.
Yeah, he'll spend all those Bitcoins from prison, which actually...
like so much cocaine in there that he just like breaks through the walls.
Totally.
I need to write libertarian poems.
Totally unrelated, but that is one of the coolest things about Bitcoin is that, you know, with brain wallets or other kinds of wallets, you actually could spend them from prison, maybe, just because it's just information. It's letters and numbers, whatever. You could keep it in your head, and if you had access to email or something, you probably could spend thousands and thousands of Bitcoins from prison. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I don't think anybody really thinks it's Ross Ulbricht. It's the bigger question is whether he even really made the Silk Road. That was a big conspiracy there. I don't know if I ever even heard anyone say he was Satoshi. So, all right, we are almost done here. We have 2 more headings, and I guess we'll just cover them just for the sake of being thorough. Who would or why would anyone go to these great lengths? I actually like the way this author does this, even though he's not named, he or she. I bet he's anonymous. It must be Satoshi. But
yes,
yeah,
right.
His headings are mostly questions, and the first sentences in each, after each heading, are just like one sentence, like straight answers. So why would anyone go to these lengths? We don't know. And... all right. I mean, I can't blame him for saying something as obvious as that because we do it all the time on this show. Well, I don't know. It could be one way. It could be another way. Whatever. Yeah, that's the way we do things. And I think that's really the way that everyone has to do things because that's just the nature of life. You never really know much. But yeah. Oh, here's one point he does make, though. He talks about taxes, which he also mentioned in the video. So maybe that's a thing, like supposedly he has to prove that he's the owner because they're saying that he owes all these taxes and he maybe wants to prove that, well, I have made a ton of gains on these Bitcoins, but I haven't spent them yet, so I don't actually owe taxes on them yet, or something like that, just some kind of tax situation that he's trying to get out of. That I think I could see that, right? Tim, do you agree? Like if he was Satoshi and somebody was saying that you owe all these taxes, I could see all this drama coming about because he's trying to say that actually I don't owe these taxes for whatever reasons. That I could see drama coming about because I bet it would be a ton of taxes. And it's like your Australian thing. They're trying to extract money out of you, and he's starting all this drama because he doesn't want so much money extracted out of him. Would that be a possibility, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a decent amount of money that he could save by saying he hasn't sold it yet. But, I mean, he's going to have to sell it at some point.
Maybe. He could just keep leaving it to his children, but then there's the death tax.
Yeah.
But I guess the biggest point was just that...
I don't know, he's already getting audited, though. I mean... it kind of slows it down to maybe he's trying to buy some time. This is the real Ross Ulbricht. This is the real Dread Pirate Roberts right here.
Yeah. But my point was just that, I mean, taxes are enough drama in themselves. So no matter what the reasons are, no matter what accountants or IRS or no matter who's saying what, it's understandable that tax drama could lead to drama like, well, he kind of proved it, but he kind of didn't. I mean, because taxes are so obscene in themselves, it's kind of understandable that it could lead to confusion and whatever crazy news stories and sensationalism and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so to wrap it up, to wrap up this story, we still have to settle this bet, Tim. But to wrap up this story, it's over to you, Tim. I want to know, why does this matter? which we've actually talked about a lot on the show before, like with all these supposed Satoshi stories. Like we've talked about, who even cares? So let's hit it one more time, Tim. Why does the author say this matter, and why do you think it matters, or do you even think it matters?
I think it'd matter I think if he is proven to be Satoshi, I think like stuff like the price will go down. Some people will drop out, be like, oh, I don't want to do something that was designed by this dude. But because anytime someone is revealed for something, people always find a problem with it they didn't find before. So I think if he is shown to be like the guy who made Bitcoin, definitely in the mainstream, it's going to be about how it's definitely rigged now. We found the dude.
Okay.
I think if he's proven to be real, then he could probably, it says at the bottom of this article about how he hasn't been idle. He has many ideas about how to expand the reach of Bitcoin, its underlying blockchain. He can just be like, well, let's just all go to, and he's going to have probably more pull. I mean, people say like, oh no, we never listen to him, but people it's just so much of a, I could definitely see it turning into a thing where people just do whatever he's for because it's like, oh, well, he created it. So, like, not everybody, but like the main part of Bitcoin, because if he's for expanding it and going to more people, that's going to look good. But it could also go bad. Mainstream media says it's this dude he could steal. Besides that, like, where we stand right now, why does it matter? I don't really think it matters right now. I mean,
yeah.
He's not hurting anything.
Yeah, that's actually,
he's just wasting BBC's time, which I guess I'm all for. I don't really give a shit.
That was the first thing I would have said, and that I'm sure that's what we've said before, like who really cares? And I still generally agree with that, but I also like your first point about, well, it could affect the price, because it doesn't matter if I don't care. It doesn't matter if I think Bitcoin is impervious and useful and valuable, no matter what. The public is what sets the market, is what sets the Bitcoin price. So no matter what I believe, no matter how great I think Bitcoin is, the price could still change with news like this easily. And yeah, I mean, if it comes out and people are like, well, it kind of lost its mysteriousness, and this guy has this flaw and this flaw and this flaw, so maybe Bitcoin's not that great, so I'm going to sell mine. I mean, yeah, the public is going to react to things like that, which means the price is going to react to things like that. So the price is subject to God knows what, and it always will be in any asset, in any commodity, in anything ever. But my own opinion is just that it doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't care. Like, it's not like it's not like what on earth could be the benefit or the loss? Like, other than the price, like, okay, so we know who it is. Thanks. Have a good day. Right? I mean, I'm with you there, Tim. Who cares? So, all right. So we got to finish this bet, Tim. So I think what we said before is that I gave you like 4-1 odds that, I would pay you $20 if he was Satoshi, and you would pay me $5 if he couldn't prove it. But we never set any kind of terms on this. We never really said how he would prove it or what we would consider proof. We never said how long he would have to go without proving anything for the opposite to be true, for me to win. And which, was a mistake, because I could have made... No, it was a mistake on your part, because if you set your terms right, maybe this could have been considered proof, and you could have gotten $20 off of me. But
there's no way you would have considered this and agreed to this being
proof
for a bet where I have to owe you $5 and you owe me $20.
All right.
Especially if I made it bigger.
All right.
Which I think I should do now.
All right. Wait, really? You want to make it bigger? All right.
I can make it bigger, yeah.
All right. So, like, are we talking like just like twice as big or like 10 times as big? Because like I said, here, like my biggest argument that I could ever come up with, I'll still give you 4-1 odds, or we could talk about that too. But just to be fair and friendly, I owe you some odds because this is so absurd. But like I said before, the biggest thing for me is that if he really was Satoshi, he could prove it in a heartbeat. And then he hasn't proven it nearly as much as he could. So I'm pretty darn sure that he's not Satoshi and that he won't prove it anytime soon. And actually, I don't know. That's tough though, because Andreessen says he's Satoshi, whatever. But I'm sure. So I would be willing to increase the bet. Like I don't know, 10 times is pretty big. What is that? Like 250? Like 200 if you win and 50 if I win. Ugh, that's a lot of money. I don't know. Is that too much for you?
No,
All right. Before we get to amounts, is 4-1 odds still fair? Does it need to be like 5-1? I don't know. I wouldn't. Nah.
I mean, I'd say if anything, I have a better chance now than I did before.
Okay. All right. So it should be 3-1 or 2-1. I'm not going to complain about that.
Maybe not 2-1, but 3-1.
All right. 3-1. 3-1. All right. So let's keep it. Let's keep the roughly 10x number, and so we could say 10x would be 200 on one side and 50 on the other side. Let's say with 3-1, we could do 210 on one side and 70 on the other side. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
I like this. This is way better than that $5.
You want to just do like a main, like 100?
100 on
300.
300. Oh, 300 and 100. Okay. Dang. All right. I like this.
Because then at least like one of us makes some kind of money.
Dude, this is good. This is good stuff. All right. But we got to talk about terms. So, all right. Man, he has to sign messages. That's for sure. Okay. Let's pick a number. He has to publicly sign X number of messages with. How do we know if the keys are Satoshis or not? Like the first 100 blocks? I guess we would have to look into that to see how long it was before Satoshi released things and whatever. All right, so here's what we'll do. We'll talk about that part off the air, about how we determine which blocks and which addresses we consider Satoshis, because I would have to look at the blockchain and whatever, read up on it. But assuming that decision is made, how many messages does he have to sign publicly with those early addresses? That's the main term we have to come up with, and a statute of limitations. So how long until I win? So what do you think, Tim? Is one message enough? Does it need to be 3? Does it need to be 10? How many messages does he have to sign to prove it? I mean, theoretically, it shouldn't make a difference. One message should mean that he could sign 10 messages. But I also feel, like I said, if he was so sure, he should be signing messages left and right. So that's why I think I want it to be more than
Go
one.
With 3.
3?
Trinity.
All right, Trinity. Man, this has been such a religious episode. We talked about Jesus and the Lord and the Trinity. All right.
Regular Sunday school.
3 messages, and how long does he have to do it?
Well, what did he tell us? He told everybody he was Satoshi on Monday. Or, I mean, he said it for a while, but, like, he said they had proof Monday.
Right.
I don't fucking know, because this dude is, like, he's, like, rolling out proof, you want to say, in, like, well, what's too long for you? Like,
too long?
Is 3 months too long for you? Because he said this 6 months?
Honestly, it would be hard to say it's too long for me, because, like I said, I'm pretty darn sure. But I think 6 months is pretty fair, because that's how long this has already been going on. That's how long it was between the first, possibility and this signed message, supposedly. It's been about 6 months for this whole story to unroll. And yeah, I think I'd be okay with another 6 months. I like that. It's on the record now. Everyone has heard it. Those are our terms. $300, $100. Man, we are high rollers tonight. But guys, you got to donate at patreon.com/you, me, and BTC so that I can afford this bet. But still, anyway, we'll talk about off the air which blocks are considered early and which blocks are considered Satoshi. But we'll figure that out. All right. So I think that's settled. Virtual handshake, Tim?
Yeah. I don't know how to really...
Yeah, whatever. Sure. That just happened. All right, so then the next question, Tim, what is your advice of the day? We're about ready to wrap up, but we just threw down some wisdom, and we got to share, we got to kind of combine it into one little sentence or two and share it with the world.
Don't believe Australia and don't believe Tim when he talks about encrypting messages.
All right, you know what?
Like, don't follow the spirit of what I say. And the same thing with my advice. Follow the spirit of my words, not what I'm actually saying. Because a lot of religions get away with saying some fucked up shit like that, and then they just say, like the more modern people say, it's just the idea. So always assume the best of me, I guess is what I'm saying.
So we're coming up on an hour, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Just a minute or two. We always say that, and it turns into 5, but whatever. I actually still want to know whatever, because I don't know Australian history or anything. So I want to know briefly what your story was about, what did you say, all of them being criminals or something?
I thought of, like, apparently Australia was originally mostly populated with criminals from, like, the British colonies. I mean, I think they sent criminals to America too, but Australia, because of it being like a smaller island or something, was primarily, it was like a lot of convicts, I think. Because I've just always heard that, not that it comes up that much, but talk about, like, Australia basically was, like, everyone there is almost, who hasn't traveled there recently is descended from a criminal that got sent there. I mean, I'm looking it up right now just to figure this out. Yeah, it was a penal colony. So
okay, interesting. Well, take that with a grain of salt, because like Tim just said, don't listen to him, just follow his heart or something like that.
No, it's the idea of the words, the heart of the message is what you need to get from me.
Okay, sure. Whatever. What Tim said, all right, fine. My advice, I always like to take the easy way out and just give some pretty obvious advice based on what we just talked about. So my advice is going to be, if you have some background and you have the ability to claim that you're Satoshi, go for it. Get in front of those cameras, get some publicity, tell everyone you won't take a single cent and collect cents left and right. Because if you're not Satoshi, you're not rich. And you got to get in front of cameras and sell your soul to get rich. So I think you should all go out there and do that. Thanks for being here today, guys. It's been awesome. Come back next Thursday. All the music in today's show has been written and recorded by this ghost of John Stewart. He's not here, but he's with us at heart in this music and stuff, so enjoy it. We'll see you next week, guys. Peace.
Bye-bye.